Hello, everybody. Welcome to my channel. My name is Adam, and I generally do reviews, but I also talk about whatever I want on this channel. And right now, I want to talk about Antifa, because recently Antifa has been classified as a terrorist organization by the Trump administration. And of course, you have people who are paying attention to this saying, like, that's ridiculous. Antifa is not an organization. It's like, it's just people who are anti fascist. And that's it's not a problem to be anti-fascist. You should be anti-fascist because America was anti-fascist in the Second World War. Um, but I wanted to talk about that in in a bit greater detail, or maybe give you my opinion about it, because I think that that kind of reaction is completely what, maybe not Trump, because I don't think Trump necessarily cares about this particular topic, even though it's one of his talking points. I think the people behind Trump are perfectly aware that there is no such organization, um, like Antifa. There are Antifa terrorists. There are a few. So I don't want to say that no members of Antifa have ever committed violence, because they have. But that fa in Antifa, that has also done a whole bunch of violence that we're quite aware of, and you know, there are more and more fascist organizations that are clearly fascist, and Nazi and inspired by all of that death cult. All of them are in existence as well. Um, so I don't want to say that there's no, like, just because you're Antifa doesn't mean you can't be a terrorist, because obviously you can. And as I said before, there is like a legitimate, maybe not legitimate, there is an organization that is a terrorist organization that prides itself on being Antifa. It's not called Antifa, though, and I don't remember the name of that, but it's not called Antifa. So if the people behind the Trump administration know that Antifa doesn't actually exist in the way that they're claiming it exists, why are they promoting this narrative? Like, one of them said, yes, we arrested the wife of the founder of Antifa, which is ridiculous because there is no uh, founder of Antifa. People are just anti fascist. Like, you can have anti communist, anti Christian, anti Islam. So saying that Antifa is a terrorist organization is like saying Islamic fundamentalism is a terrorist organization. There are no, there are many Islamic terrorist organizations, right? Like ISIS and Al Qaeda, and I don't know, I could keep on naming them. And they do have like a terrorist structure, they have organizations, they have goals, they have principles, whatever, you know, whatever things that they're aiming for. So you can say that ISIS is a terrorist organization that is inspired by Islamic fundamentalism, and you can say Adam Wapfin, or whatever that group was called, they are a terrorist organization inspired by fascism and Nazism. But you can't say fascism is a terrorist organization, or you can't say Islamic jihadism is a terrorist organization. And thus, you can't say Antifa is a terrorist organization. So the question is, why? Why are they doing that? Why are they saying that Antifa is a terrorist organization? The reason why is because they are framing the narrative of what they do. They're framing the narrative like any pushback to what we're doing is this vague, nebulous enemy. And any criticism of what we do is caused by this vague, nebulous enemy. And it's not that what we are doing is morally reprehensible or ethically dubious. It's like there's all of this agitation, and people don't know the real truth. And the real truth is what we're doing is okay, and any kind of opposition to what we're doing is this Antifa. And actually, it works great as a rhetorical device because you can never arrest people who are connected to the organization because the organization doesn't exist. You never stop. It's like in 1984, the idea of this eternal war, right? So the war, uh, the war continues because the government requires it to continue. It's kind of like, but uh, I think the thing to remember also is like, this is not a new thing by any stretch of the imagination. You remember the war on terrorism, the war on drugs? You know, the war on terrorism wasn't a war against a specific organization. It was like very vague enough so that you could motivate people by them being afraid, right? So Antifa is becoming this thing for the American right, like it's, you know, but there was actually terrorist organizations behind the war on terror, right? You could say Al Qaeda, ISIS, whatever. There are terrorist organizations, right? But Antifa, this doesn't actually exist. So that's why I think that they're doing that. And I think that it's kind of really, obviously, it's dangerous because it will be like a new witch hunt, right? So the government will use its powers to harass people. And obviously, that's what they're doing now. So they're using the power that they have uh, as the democratically elected administration to, uh, you know, go after immigrants and go after people who criticize going after immigrants and going after like cities that would never vote for them and having like this introducing this political violence into the equation. And the problem is when you introduce political violence into anything, you can't control it, right? So what happens when you have like a democratic reaction to this oppression? Maybe nothing. Maybe you'll be arrested. Maybe you'll be harassed. You know, you're like you're opening this Pandora's box of consequences against you. Yeah, and so I also want to talk about one thing that I learned, which is I watched this video recently of organizations which are calling for the collapse of civilization. And there are a lot of them, surprisingly, and 80% of them are nihilist and they are inspired by fascism or Nazism or the occult or whatever. That's like 80% of them. And then there's some other percentage which are eco-fascist or whatever. They're mostly connected to fascism, but there are others who want to have sort of like a technocratic government, these city states which are controlled by AI or controlled by the elite. And the people who promote this always think that they're going to be the elite, right? But that never happens. Usually it's somebody else. So basically, it's a sort of modern Bolshevism because the Bolsheviks also believed that they were the elite, right? And they started they didn't start, but they launched a coup within the Russian Revolution to take control of Russia. So what I am and I also have been, I'm a bit rambling, sorry, but I've also been watching some videos about the history of Christianity and Christian groups. And what is so sickening about these movements is that a lot of them have hijacked the American right. And the American right is this weird amalgamation of, uh, like traditional Christianity and ethno-nationalism. And the ethno-nationalists and the big corporate capitalists who believe in this collapse of civilization, it's not everybody, right? But what I'm saying is, it's dangerous because there are people who believe that, right? Peter Thiel, as much as he talks about the Antichrist, is one of those people who believes in that vision that society should collapse. There should be these technocratic city states run by AI. Um, the thing that is so sickening to me is it's so anti-Christian, right? So you have American Christians who genuinely believe that Donald Trump is a good Christian man. That's another question entirely, but let's leave that aside. But he supports Christianity, whatever. These people in that broad alliance, some of them don't support Christianity. Some of them are really anti-Christian groups which have infiltrated the American right for their own nefarious purposes. And so you have, like, Uncle Bob, Uncle Doreen, or whatever. I mean, if you grew up in North America, you have people who are conservative. You have family members, friends who are conservative because they go to church, right? And genuinely they're good people. Maybe they don't have entirely progressive views on gay people, or maybe they do, whatever. But they believe in the teachings of their church, right? They believe in the fundamentals of Christianity. And the fundamentals of Christianity do not include setting up a fascist ethnic state, right? That's not Christianity. If you start doing that, you're doing other things, right? And Peter Thiel, he chose J.D. Vance, right? J.D. Vance doesn't believe anything. He wants power. But the people behind J.D. Vance are the people who believe in these crazy, ridiculous, absurd things. And I think that they're using this moment of very deep division in society to push forward something that I would say 99% of Americans on any spectrum, political spectrum, don't want. Christians don't want to live in a society where their black neighbors are put in cages and, are work as slaves. Liberal people don't want to live in a New York City that has succeeded and is being run by AI, and then the people like Peter Thiel have all of the benefits of that system. Like, nobody wants that. Nobody wants that at all, and yet we have people who are Trojan horsing their beliefs into mainstream American politics. Or maybe what I mean by saying they're Trojan horsing their beliefs is that they believe that, but they're not telling people that they believe it, right? So, yeah, I think that this, I started talking about Antifa, and then I started talking about those other groups. So maybe that should have been two separate videos because they are different ideas. But Antifa is a convenient cloak for people to get away with bad things. And I think, like, this ethnic Christian nationalism is being fomented on the one hand, and also taken into directions that people who are Christian don't want to see. So yeah, that's just my thoughts about it, about the situation. So what do you think? Put your ideas in the comments. Thank you. Bye-bye.